See, there comes a moment in every real one's life where you gotta look in the mirror and admit you the reason you ain't where you supposed to be. It ain't your city. It ain't your friends. It ain't your circumstances. It's that old version of you, the one that keep doubting, procrastinating, settling, and playing small when your purpose been calling you loud. That old you comfortable. That old you addicted to excuses. That old you love saying, one day I'll change, but one day never come until you kill that version for good. This journey ain't about becoming somebody new. It's about remembering who you always were before fear got in the way. So tonight, I want you to feel this message deep. Force yourself to kill the old you. Because if you don't, that old you gon' kill your dreams first. Let's be real for a minute. You can't expect to heal in the same environment that hurt you. You can't expect growth in the same space that planted your doubts. It's like trying to plant fresh seeds in dry soil that ain't been watered in years. It just won't grow. No matter how much potential inside that seed, sometimes the most painful but powerful step in your evolution is realizing you gotta walk away from what's familiar, even if that familiar place once felt like home. See, we all got that one environment that shaped us, the block you grew up on, the circle you came up with, the energy that surrounded you when you ain't no better. That space might have taught you toughness, but it also taught you habits that don't serve your future, and you can't expect to elevate if you still anchored to what kept you low. You can't be trying to change your mindset while listening to the same voices that laughed at your dreams. You can't become your highest self while spending every night in the same places that drained your spirit. I had homies I loved, still love, but I had to distance myself because we were moving in two different directions. They were stuck in survival mode and I was trying to live in legacy mode. That ain't disrespect. That's awareness. You start realizing that love don't mean alignment. You can love somebody and still outgrow them. You can appreciate your roots but still understand you ain't meant to stay planted in the same dirt forever. Growth requires movement. When you start to see more for yourself, the world around you start to look different. The conversations that used to excite you start to feel empty. The habits that used to give you comfort start to feel like chains. You start craving something deeper, peace, purpose, clarity. That's when you know the old environment done serving you. But here's the truth, walking away ain't easy. It's lonely. It's uncomfortable. You go and question yourself 100 times, thinking maybe you tripping, maybe you changing too much. But that pain you feel from leaving is really just your soul detoxing from the chaos it got used to. Let me tell you something, every level of your life demands a different version of you. But that new version can't breathe in the same air the old you survived in. When I started elevating, I realized I had to protect my energy like it was my last dollar. I stopped showing up to every invite. I stopped explaining my vision to people who wasn't even trying to see it. I stopped letting loyalty keep me tied to cycles that only produced pain. Because peace don't live where your potential dying. And you know what's wild? The minute you step out that toxic environment, clarity hit different. You start hearing yourself again. You start seeing who you really are without the noise. You begin to understand how much of your identity was shaped by what you were surrounded by. When you remove yourself, you realize how much of that environment had you settling in your relationships, in your mindset, in your dreams. You start thinking, damn, I was living small because I was scared to outgrow my surroundings. That's when you know you're evolving for real. Growth gon' make you the villain in some people's story. They gon' say you changed, they gon' say you acting brand new. But what they really mean is you stopped playing the role they were comfortable with. You stopped participating in the same pain. You stopped feeding the same gossip, the same drama, the same cycles that used to make you feel included. Don't apologize for that. Don't let guilt pull you back to a place you pray to escape from. Sometimes it's not even about people. It's about environments that reflect who you used to be. Maybe it's your job, your habits, your digital space, your routines. You can't build peace while scrolling through chaos all day. You can't claim to want change while surrounding yourself with reminders of who you used to be. If the space around you don't make you feel inspired, it's time to move. Because your environment feeds your energy, and your energy shapes your future. There's a reason why some people move out the city or change their circle, or go quiet for a season. It's not because they think they're better, it's because they want to get better. They understand healing can't happen where the pain was created. You can't patch a wound while standing in the same place you got cut. Sometimes you gotta bleed alone before you bloom in peace. And when you finally take that step, when you finally walk away from what broke you, you gon' feel it. The silence gon' feel heavy. The night's gon' feel longer. The memories gone, replay. But hold on through that phase, because that's where transformation happens. That's where you start rebuilding your identity from the inside out. That's where you start choosing yourself even when it feels uncomfortable. You start filling that empty space with new energy, reading, learning, meditating, grinding, building. You start attracting people that speak to your vision instead of your weakness. You start to see that peace was never supposed to feel foreign. You just been surrounded by too much noise to recognize it. One day you wake up and you realize you ain't craving the old environment no more. The gossip don't excite you. The late nights don't tempt you. The old conversations don't move you. That's when you know the old you really gone. You replace chaos with clarity. You replace distraction with direction. You replace survival with purpose. And it all started with one decision. The decision to leave the place that no longer reflected your growth. You can't heal in the same environment that broke you. You can't step into your new life while holding on to the comfort of the old one. You gotta choose yourself even when it hurts. You gotta walk away from what's familiar even when it feels like home. Because healing ain't about what's easy, it's about what's necessary. And when you finally step into that new environment, when you finally give yourself space to grow, you'll realize something powerful. You didn't lose anything. You gained peace, you gained clarity, you gained yourself back. That's the real victory. See, everybody love to talk about motivation, but motivation don't last. Motivation, that quick spark, it feel good in the moment, but it fades when life get heavy. Discipline though, discipline is the real killer of the old you. Discipline is what buries that lazy, fearful, doubtful version of yourself that keep whispering tomorrow. Discipline is quiet. It ain't loud like hype. It ain't flashy like motivation. It's the one that show up when you tired, when you uninspired, when nobody watching. That's what makes it powerful. It's the backbone of every comeback. When I was building my movement, there were days I ain't feel like moving, days when the grind felt endless, when I looked around and nothing was happening yet, no validation, no results, just work. But I forced myself to show up anyway. I told myself, if I don't put the bricks down today, there won't be a wall tomorrow. That's what growth really looks like. Doing it when the mood gone, when the lights off, when the world's sleep and it's just you versus your excuses. You kill the old you every single time you choose consistency over comfort. Everybody want the results, but few willing to do the boring work that brings them. See, the old you is addicted to comfort, sleeping in, making excuses, chasing instant gratification. But the new you got goals that require sacrifice. So when you feel that old version trying to pull you back, you gotta remind yourself, comfort never built nothing legendary. Growth gonna demand you to feel uncomfortable for a while. That's how transformation works. You used to wake up late, start waking up early. You used to complain about what's missing. Start creating something out of nothing. You used to run from pressure, start embracing it. 'Cause pressure create diamonds, not comfort zones. That's how you separate the dreamers from the doers. The old you dreams, the new you executes. The old you plans, the new you performs. Every time you take disciplined action, even when you don't feel like it, you're building self-respect. You're proving to yourself that your word means something. That's the real definition of confidence. Keeping promises to yourself when no one else holding you accountable. And let me tell you something real. Discipline gonna test you. It's repetitive, it's lonely, it's unrecognized. Nobody claps for you at 5 a.m. when you up grinding. Nobody sees you turning down distractions, cutting off comfort, or choosing peace over parties. But that's where your power being built, in those quiet, unseen hours when you do what needs to be done regardless of who watching. That's the death of the old you. See, the old version of you want attention, the new version want results. The old version crave validation, the new version trust the process. Discipline turns you from being a talker into being a transformer. It rewires your brain, trains your focus, and builds the kind of inner strength that no setback can destroy. When you're out here grinding with discipline, you start realizing success don't come from bursts of energy. It comes from habits, small, consistent habits that compound over time. Every workout, every chapter you read, every dollar you save, every idea you execute. That's another shovel of dirt on the grave of the old you. Bit by bit, day by day, you bury who you were to become who you're meant to be. I've seen too many people let their dreams die 'cause they're waiting to feel ready. But discipline don't wait on feelings. You think boxers feel like training every day. You think entrepreneurs feel like sacrificing sleep for strategy. Nah, but they know feelings temporary, results permanent. You gotta move even when the motivation gone, 'cause that's how you earn momentum. And here's the truth nobody wanna admit. Discipline gone isolate you. You gon' lose friends who don't understand why you don't hang out no more. You gon' lose comfort because now your schedule tight, your goals bigger, your mindset sharper. But that's part of the process. When you truly dedicated to your elevation, you can't expect everybody to clap while you cutting distractions. Some gon' call you distant, some gon' say you switched up. But you ain't switch up, you leveled up. Discipline is like building muscle, painful at first but powerful later. At the start it's hard, you gon' wanna quit. But once you start seeing results, not just in your life, but in your mindset, that's when it get addicting. You start respecting yourself on a deeper level because you realize you're capable of keeping promises. You realize you don't need outside push. You built your own motor. That's the shift right there, from relying on hype to running on habits. That's when you start walking different, talking different, thinking different. That's when your confidence don't come from what you wear or what you post. It come from knowing you earned your growth. You can't fake that kind of energy. It radiates from within because you know the hours you put in when nobody was clapping. And let me break something down. Discipline ain't about being perfect. It's about being persistent. You gonna fall off sometimes. You gonna miss a day, make a mistake, slip into old habits. That's cool. Just don't stay there. The difference between the old you and the new you is what you do after you fall. The old you stay down. The new you get back up, adjust, and keep pushing. That's discipline, not quitting when it gets hard, not losing faith when it gets quiet. Because truth be told, the quiet seasons test your loyalty to your vision. Anybody can grind when they winning, but can you stay locked in when nothing's moving? Can you still believe when your effort's invisible? That's what separates those who talk about change from those who live it. Discipline is staying faithful to the process even when the progress slow. Over time, discipline builds a foundation no storm can break. You stop depending on hype. You stop chasing instant wins. You stop comparing your journey to others. You become grounded. You move with purpose. And that's when you start seeing how unstoppable you really are. It's funny because people always ask, what's the secret? Ain't no secret. It's discipline. Waking up and doing the work even when the world quiet, even when you tired, even when the results take longer than expected. That's how legacies are built, through consistency. Every person who ever made something out of nothing didn't do it off emotion. They did it off discipline. From athletes to artists to entrepreneurs, all of them had that moment where they forced themselves past comfort, past doubt, past fear. That's the only way to evolve. So yeah, motivation might start the engine, but discipline drives the car. Motivation gives you the dream, discipline gives you the life. And once you master that, once you stop waiting for the perfect moment and start creating discipline in every moment, that's when the old you die for good. Because discipline don't just change your schedule, it changes your soul. It rewires your spirit. It builds a version of you that don't fold under pressure, don't settle under pain, and don't stop when it get uncomfortable. That's when you finally understand discipline ain't punishment. It's freedom. The old you live for comfort, the new you live for purpose. And purpose don't require motivation. It requires discipline. Before you can kill the old you, you gotta stop hating them. You gotta stop looking back at that version of yourself like they were the enemy. See, that old you, the one who made mistakes, trusted the wrong people, stayed in situations too long, gave too many chances. That version was just doing the best they could with what they knew at the time. They didn't know better yet. They didn't have the wisdom you got now. They were surviving pain, heartbreak, disappointment, and confusion, and still trying to find a way to keep moving forward. That old version of you wasn't weak. They were learning. And the minute you can look back at them with compassion instead of judgment, that's when real growth begins. We live in a world that makes it easy to be hard on yourself. Social media got everybody acting like they've been perfect since day one, like they never took a loss, never got played, never doubted themselves. But the truth is, everybody got a chapter they don't read out loud. Everybody got moments they're not proud of. But what separates the ones who evolve from the ones who stay stuck is the ability to forgive themselves and move different. Forgiveness ain't weakness, it's freedom. When you forgive yourself, you take your power back. You stop letting guilt rob you of energy you could be using to grow. You stop letting shame keep you replaying old moments like a broken record. Guilt is heavy, and carrying it around is like walking uphill with weights on your back. It slows you down, it drains your spirit, and it keeps you from running toward your future. Maybe you wasted years in a relationship that didn't deserve your love. Maybe you stayed loyal to a dream that wasn't aligned with your purpose. Maybe you blew opportunities because you weren't ready mentally or you didn't believe in yourself yet. That's cool. Own it. Learn from it. But don't live there. You can't build your next chapter in the same space where you keep mourning your old one. The old you was necessary for your awareness. They made mistakes that taught you lessons you couldn't learn any other way. Every failure gave you feedback. Every setback revealed a weakness you had to strengthen. So don't hate your past. Thank it for shaping your wisdom. Growth don't mean you gotta erase who you were. It means you gotta evolve from them. It means using everything they went through as fuel. The same fire that once burned you can light your next chapter if you let it. That heartbreak, it taught you how to set boundaries. That failure, it taught you how to prepare better. That betrayal, it taught you how to trust your intuition. You start to realize none of it was wasted. It was just training. Training for the version of you that's ready now. When you forgive yourself, you stop fighting your past and start building your future. You stop seeing your old self as an embarrassment and start seeing them as evidence of resilience. You start realizing that everything you survived added layers to your strength. And that's the beauty of it. Your growth didn't come from perfection, it came from persistence. You didn't get here by never failing, you got here by refusing to stay down when you did. Sometimes we get so caught up in trying to prove we've changed that we forget growth ain't about proving anything, it's about peace. You don't have to convince nobody you different. You don't have to over-explain why you moved on, why you distanced yourself, why you talk less and grind more. The real ones evolve quietly, they let their results speak. The old you talked about change. The new you just live it. And let's be honest, forgiving yourself is one of the hardest things you'll ever do, because that voice in your head going, keep reminding you of what you did wrong. It'll say, you should have known better. You wasted time. You lost people who mattered. But you got to talk back to that voice and say, I did the best I could with what I knew. Now I know better, and I'm doing better. That's power. That's healing. That's maturity. You can't evolve while you're stuck replaying old pain. You can't build a new mindset while you're trapped in old guilt. The old you already paid the price. Stop charging yourself interest on a debt that's already been cleared. Forgiveness is you saying, I deserve peace now. It's you choosing to stop being at war with your own story. When you finally let that weight go, you'll start to see how much energy you get back. You'll think clearer. You'll move lighter. You'll stop attracting chaos and start attracting clarity. Because the universe don't move for people who live in shame. It moves for people who live in alignment. When you forgive yourself, you get back in alignment with who you were meant to be. Then comes the next part, outgrowing yourself. That's the part most people avoid. Forgiveness gets you unstuck, but growth takes you forward. You can't stay in the same mindset that created the mistakes. You gotta evolve your habits, your environment, your standards. The person you're becoming can't survive in the same spaces where the old you lived comfortably. Growth requires letting go of comfort. You got to keep stretching yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually, even when it hurts. Outgrowing yourself means saying goodbye to who you were yesterday, not because you hate them, but because you love where you're headed more. It means looking at your old patterns and saying, that used to be me, but it's not me no more. It means understanding that peace costs old versions of yourself that you can't afford to keep. See, people talk about outgrowing others, but the real challenge is outgrowing yourself. It's cutting ties with your own excuses. It's calling yourself out when you start slipping back into old behaviors. It's recognizing when comfort trying to trick you back into being average. The old you love shortcuts. The new you love structure. The old you needed validation. The new you move in purpose. The old you talked about potential. The new you live it. And you know what's beautiful? Every time you level up, you'll look back and see how far you've come. You'll see the distance between the person you used to be and the person you are now. And that gap, that's the proof of your discipline, your faith, your growth. That's your evolution. That's what all the pain, all the mistakes, all the lessons were leading to. So when you look back, don't look with regret. Look with gratitude. The old you carried you through storms you didn't think you'd survive. They took hits you weren't ready for. They kept you alive long enough for the new you to thrive. That version of you deserves respect, not resentment. Forgive them, thank them, then outgrow them. Because you ain't running from your past, you evolving beyond it. You're stepping into a season where peace replaces pain, where purpose replaces guilt, and where wisdom replaces shame. That's how you truly kill the old you, not with hate, but with growth. Every day, that old version of you whispers, relax, you deserve a break. And at first, that voice sounds innocent, like it's protecting you, giving you permission to rest. But truth is, that voice ain't your friend, it's your comfort calling. It's the same voice that's been holding you back, the one that shows up every time you close in on progress. It says, chill, when you're supposed to push. It says you earned it when you barely started. And every time you listen, you trade purpose for pleasure, potential for comfort. That's the war most people lose before they even realize they're fighting it. See, pleasure feel good right now. It's easy, it's fast, it's instant. You scroll a little, you party a little, you tell yourself one more day before you start grinding again. But pleasure is temporary. It give you a high for the moment, then it leave you empty. Purpose, on the other hand, don't always feel good, but it give you meaning. It builds something inside you that don't fade when the moment's over. Pleasure distracts you from your pain. Purpose teaches you how to heal it. Pleasure feeds your ego. Purpose feeds your soul. You got to start asking yourself real questions. Is this helping me evolve, or is it keeping me stuck? Is this building my legacy, or is it keeping me comfortable in mediocrity? Because every time you say no to a distraction, you're saying yes to your destiny. Every time you skip that empty pleasure and choose progress instead, you're proving to yourself that you're serious about your future. I've seen too many people with crazy potential let it go to waste because they couldn't control their habits. They chased every thrill, every short high, every temporary escape. And years later, they still in the same spot, talking about what they could have been. And the saddest part, most of them not even untalented, they just undisciplined. They keep feeding the part of them that wants comfort instead of the part that craves greatness. You can't build a legacy off impulses. You can't chase both pleasure and purpose. One gon' have to die for the other to live. Purpose gone requires sacrifice. It ain't glamorous, and it definitely ain't always fun. You gon' miss some nights out. You gon' lose some company. You gon' spend time in rooms where it's just you, your thoughts, and your goals. But that's how you build something that lasts. That's how you create the kind of peace that money can't buy. Because once you start living in purpose, you stop chasing highs, you start creating meaning. The truth is, purpose come with pain. It come with self-doubt, loneliness, and frustration. But that pain is sacred because it's shaping you. It's preparing you for the version of yourself that can handle everything you prayed for. Pleasure is cheap, purpose is earned. You don't stumble into greatness, you sacrifice your comfort to build it. Think about it. Every person you admire, every leader, every legend, every success story, they all had to choose purpose over pleasure. They had moments where they could have quit, where they could have said, I'll do it later. But they didn't. They stayed locked in when nobody believed. They worked through the nights other people wasted. They understood something most people don't. That temporary comfort costs long-term fulfillment. When I was building my vision, I had plenty of opportunities to fall off. Parties, distractions, fake friends telling me to take it easy. But I knew one thing, comfort don't create legacy. Purpose do. I told myself, I can't afford to waste time on what don't serve the bigger picture. You start realizing time is your real currency. Every hour you give to something meaningless is an hour you stealing from your destiny. And that's what you gotta understand. The old you live for right now, the new you live for what's next. The old you chase a feeling, the new you chase fulfillment. You can't evolve until you pick which one matters more. The crazy part is, once you start choosing purpose over pleasure long enough, the things that used to tempt you don't even move you anymore. That dopamine hit don't hit the same when you've tasted real progress. You start getting addicted to seeing growth. You start getting high off discipline, off seeing your dreams come alive piece by piece. But in the beginning, it's hard. The temptation gonna be everywhere. People around you still stuck in cycles of distraction. They'll say, come on, you doing too much, or you gotta live a little. But understand, when you living in purpose, you are living. You just living intentionally. You not wasting life chasing moments. You building something that's gonna outlast you. Pleasure gonna always be there. The parties ain't going nowhere. The noise ain't going nowhere. But opportunities, they disappear. Time, you can't get it back. Every day you delay your purpose, you giving the old you another day of power. And if you keep doing that long enough, you'll wake up one day realizing you spent your prime feeding distractions that never fed you back. You got to decide who you want to be. The person that talk about dreams, or the one that wake up and chase him. The person that seek pleasure, or the one that build peace. The world reward focus, not feelings. Purpose don't ask if you feel ready. It just asks if you're willing. And when you start walking in purpose, something crazy happens. Peace start following you. You stop feeling like you're missing out, because you realize you've been gaining everything that matters. The late nights become fulfilling. The sacrifices start to make sense. You stop comparing your journey to others, because you're too busy being aligned with your own. Purpose gone. Test your patience. You might not see results right away. You might go through seasons where it looked like nothing happening, but that's where you got to trust the process. Pleasure give you instant results, a temporary high. Purpose take longer, but it builds something permanent. The foundation might take years, but when it's done, it's unshakable. And look, you human, you gonna slip sometimes. You gonna have days where you fall back into old habits, chase temporary comfort. That's all right. The key is not to stay there. Catch yourself, recommit, realign, because the difference between winners and quitters ain't perfection, it's persistence. The real ones know how to bounce back. They don't let one bad day turn into a bad life. So the next time that voice whisper, relax, you deserve a break. Remind yourself what's at stake. Remind yourself that every small decision adds up. Just one night could cost you momentum. Every moment you trade for comfort takes you further from clarity. But every time you choose purpose, every time you stay focused when it's easier to drift, every time you keep going when the old you say stop, you growing into a version of yourself that can handle everything you prayed for. That's what this whole thing about the journey, the transformation, the sacrifice, the reward that comes when you finally realize purpose ain't just what you do, it's who you become in the process. You start seeing that pleasure was just the distraction, but purpose was always the destination. Killing the old you ain't something you do once and walk away from. It's not a single decision you make after a motivational video or a bad night. It's a lifelong process. Every morning you wake up with a choice. You either recommit to the person you're becoming or you relapse into the one you're trying to escape. It's that simple, but it ain't easy. Growth is repetition, discipline is renewal, and transformation is war daily. When I say force yourself, I don't mean beat yourself up. I mean be deliberate. Be intentional with how you move, how you think, how you act. Because if you don't decide who you gonna be today, the world gonna decide for you. You can't build a new version of yourself on autopilot. You gotta wake up and choose your future over your feelings every single day. Force yourself to read when your mind says scroll. That one decision right there can change your whole mindset, because what you feed your mind becomes how you think, and how you think becomes how you live. When I was coming up, I used to spend hours studying books on business, mindset, history, while everybody else was lost in entertainment. I wasn't trying to be smarter than nobody. I was just trying to break cycles. Every page I read was a brick in the new foundation. That's what people miss. It's not about big leaps, it's about daily layers. Every small act of intention adds up until one day you build something solid inside you. Force yourself to move when your body say rest. Growth don't happen in comfort. You might be tired, you might be stressed, you might even be doubting the point of it all, but you still gotta move. Because momentum don't care about your mood. You either feed it or you lose it. Every workout, every cold morning run, every late night grind session when nobody's watching, that's when you separate yourself. The old you would have hit snooze, the new you get up and go. That's where evolution starts, when you start doing things out of discipline, not emotion. Force yourself to think positive when your mind drifts to doubt. That's one of the hardest battles you gon' fight. The mind is powerful, but it can be your biggest enemy if you let it run wild. Self-doubt, fear, guilt, those are the weapons of the old you. You gotta reprogram your mindset daily. Speak life over yourself even when things don't look like they're working. Tell yourself, I'm building something bigger. I'm not who I was. I'm becoming better. Because the words you speak start shaping your reality. The old you survived off negativity, the new you thrive off faith. And every time you make the hard choice, you reinforce the new blueprint. You start rewiring yourself on a deep level. You start to move different, talk different, think different, attract different. You stop chasing validation and start moving with alignment. You stop reacting to life and start creating it. You begin to understand that consistency builds confidence and confidence builds peace. That's when you know you killing the old you, not through anger, but through discipline. Some days it's gonna feel like you're not making progress. You'll look in the mirror and still see the old patterns, the old habits, the old fears trying to creep back in. But don't trip, that's part of the process. Growth ain't linear, it's layered. The real work happens in silence, when nobody clapping, when it's just you viz you. You gotta trust that every intentional move is pushing you closer to who you meant to be. I remember when I started building my foundation, there were mornings I didn't feel inspired at all. Some days I questioned if it was even worth it. But I realized something: inspiration don't build empires, discipline does. You can't wait on motivation to show up, you gotta act your way into it. Every small win feeds the next one. Every day you choose purpose over passivity, you proving to yourself that you're evolving. And that's how the shift happened, quietly, consistently. One day you wake up and something feels different. You look at your circle, your mindset, your habits, and you realize you don't even recognize the old version anymore. You don't crave the same things. You don't react the same way. The noise that used to distract you don't hit the same. The people that used to drain you can't even reach you now because you're not living on that frequency no more. You done outgrown it. That's the real victory. Not the cars, not the money, not the fame. Those things cool, but they ain't peace. The real win is internal. It's knowing you conquered yourself. It's looking in the mirror and realizing you built that version from scratch. No shortcuts, no handouts, just discipline, intention, and faith. That's power. That's legacy. Rebuilding yourself every day means living with awareness. You start catching your old habits mid-motion. You stop reacting and start responding. You replace escape with elevation. And you begin to understand that becoming your best self ain't about perfection. It's about persistence. Every time you fall, you get up quicker. Every time you doubt, you find faith faster. Every time you fail, you learn deeper. That's how you transform for real. And don't get it twisted. This process never ends. Even the strongest, most evolved version of you still gotta wake up tomorrow and recommit. That's how growth works. You can't coast on yesterday's discipline. You can't rely on last week's mindset. Every day demands a new level of focus. You can't build the life you want on yesterday's habits. See, the old you will always try to sneak back in through comfort, through routine, through people who only knew you before your growth. But you can't let them pull you back. You didn't come this far just to meet your old reflection again. Every sunrise is a reminder, another chance to get it right, to reinforce your vision, to stack another layer on the person you're building. So when you wake up tomorrow, don't move out of habit, move with purpose. Ask yourself, what would the highest version of me do today? Then do that. Again and again until it's who you naturally become. That's how you rebuild yourself, with awareness, intention, and repetition. And when you finally reach that point where peace lives inside you, not because life easy, but because you solid within, that's when you realize the truth. Killing the old you was never about hate. It was about rebirth. It was about shedding everything that no longer fit your future. It was about proving to yourself that you got the power to evolve daily. That's the ultimate victory, not fame, not applause, but freedom. The freedom of knowing you run your life. The peace that comes when you finally conquer the hardest person you'll ever face, yourself.